Welcome to another edition of Discover Tinley, where we highlight people and organizations in Tinley Park that make our town a great place in which to live. And as we all know, Tinley Park is a pretty great place in which to live. Hopefully you're having a good time as fall is creeping up on us here, and hate to say the word winter is coming, but winter is coming, and we'll hopefully enjoy a mild winter this year. A lot of things happening in Tinley Park, and November we kind of dedicate to the veterans. Veteran Day comes up in November 11th, and for the program tonight we're going to be interviewing a veteran who recently came back from service overseas. He's had a real good experience over there. Real good, should I say real good experience? I don't know about that. His name is Lance Corporal Bodle, or Evin Bodle. But Lance Corporal Bodle is joining us he lives in Tinley Park right now, and he's going to join us for Discover Tinley. Welcome to Discover Tinley, Evin.
Thank you. Well, glad to be here.
Are you okay? And you are in Tinley Park, yes.
Yes, that's fantastic.
That's
fantastic. I know I'm not lost.
No, thank you. How long have you lived now? You've lived in Tinley Park now, right?
I originally came here back in July of last year to attend the blind rehab program that runs out of Edward Hines Jr. VA. And the second week I was there, a motorcycle group called AVMRA, American Veteran Motorcycle Riders Association, came out to do a lunch for the individuals at the spinal cord unit, the extended care center, and the blind rehab unit. Unfortunately, the extended care center didn't have enough participants that wanted to go, so they canceled, and the spinal cord unit had too many patients that wanted to go and not enough staff to get them there. So it wound up just being the blind rehab center that actually attended that when I met an individual that lives out here not too far from this current location that we're filming at. And she actually wound up becoming my caregiver, which is whom I'm staying with right now.
Okay. Wow, you had a circuitous route to Tinley Park. Now, where did you grow up? Where did you grow up from? Where did you come from originally?
I was originally born and raised until the grade of 6 in Enumclaw, Washington, the one on the West Coast, not the East Coast.
Thank you.
A lot of people seem to get that confused for some reason.
Yeah.
And I was born to my mother and father who, separated at a younger age, unfortunately, but I still am in good contact and good standings with my father. My mother has done some things that in the not too distant past have kind of thrown me over the edge.
Oh my.
So I no longer keep in touch with her.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you at least with your father. Is he still in Washington then?
He is.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoy Tinley Park. It is kind of a neat place.
Hey, I love it. You guys get snow in the winter here, heat in the summer. I know I
but
can't
you
see
get
the
more
drive.
rain up there, though.
You know that nursery rhyme, Rain, Rain, Go Away?
Yeah.
It was sung about Western Washington.
Oh,
it's, no. I think it rains more days than it's overcast or nice there.
I think so. When and why did you join the Marines?
I actually originally did my ASVAB when I was in my sophomore year of high school, and I scored a 93 on it, which was outstanding, and they were more than impressed. So was I, considering I hadn't studied for it and had done nothing other than the meticulous homework that they assigned. So
you weren't a sterling student in high school then, huh?
Oh, no, just mostly A's and a couple B's. Some darn B's were holding me back a little bit.
Okay, good.
It happens.
All right.
And they pulled me in the week following after they got the results and sat me down to talk to me about interest in joining an armed service branch, which after talking with them, I've always wanted to serve my country. So that was back in 2002. Well, come 2004, I had retaken the ASVAB and scored a 91 on it and was set to dep in, and I was staying at a buddy's house down in Olympia, Washington, when my father called, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm hanging out at a friend's house." He goes, "What are you going to be doing tomorrow and the day after?" I should have known right there to say I'm busy.
Little hint.
But what it was is the company he was working for needed somebody to drive a truck and trailer with equipment over to Eastern Washington to drop it off and drive back. Not a big deal. I wasn't set to dep in until the Tuesday following. That was on a Thursday. So I had more than enough time. Well, when I got over there and asked him where he wanted me to leave the trailer and everything that was in the truck, he looked at me and said, "Well, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, you said I was bringing this over here, dropping it off, and going back." And he goes, "No, things have changed since you left." He goes, "You're staying over here until the job's complete." I'm like, well, wait a minute. I have to be back by Tuesday to dep in. And he goes, oh, don't worry. The job shouldn't run much past Saturday. I'm like, okay, I can still make it back by Tuesday by then. It wasn't done by Saturday.
Oops.
It wasn't done by the following Thursday.
Oh, my.
So not only did I miss my dep in date, but I missed joining the Marine Corps back in 2005.
Oh.
So that put it off. And after that put it off, there started to become a waiting list with the Marine Corps as to how long you had to wait to go to boot camp.
Oh.
So I decided to just kind of put it on hold. I had taken the ASVAB. I had not yet depped in. I was no longer committed to the Marine Corps at that point. I was just going to give it a little bit of time for that wait time to go down. Needless to say, it didn't go down.
No.
And it wasn't until 2010, the tail end of 2010, when I was running a business in Washington State and I was subcontracted out to another client, when things were starting to slow down. The housing was starting to slow down.
Oh, yeah.
Everything was starting to slow down, even more than what it had in 2008 and 2009. So I went down to the recruiting station. I went back down to the MEPS facility in Seattle, Washington, took the ASVAB, scored another 93,
Oh.
and he goes, the field's open to whatever you want.
Wow.
I told him I want to do whatever will get me into the Marine Corps the fastest.
Okay.
And he goes, okay, we can send you an open contract, but that does not mean that you're going to get something you want or something you'll like.
Oops.
I'm like, they'll eventually give it to me, depending on how much time I'm in there and how much they start hating me. And he goes, well, we'll see about that.
So what specialty did you end up with?
At the end of boot camp, when they had sat us all in our little gaggle that we had there, and they were reading off what everybody's MOSs were, I became an 1812 tank crewman.
Oh.
So I became either a driver, a loader, a gunner, or a tank commander on an M1A1 Abrams.
Is that kind of what you wanted, though?
Would you want to argue with a 72-ton piece of rolling steel?
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
So I didn't draw a bad card.
All
It was
right.
actually a pretty good deal. And everybody says the driver's got the worst job, but in a tank, there's something you need to realize. When it's hot outside, the ambient temperature inside the tank's 10 to 15 degrees hotter than
Oh,
the
yes.
exterior. When it's cold outside, it's about 15 to 20 degrees colder inside the tank than the
Oops.
temperature outside. The driver's got the only fan and heater. So now tell me who's got the short end of the stick.
Okay. You weren't so dumb, were you? No.
No.
Good for you.
But I spent a fair share of time as a driver.
Now, where'd you serve now? Where were you doing some of this stuff now?
I went to MCRD San Diego, which is a Marine Corps recruit depot, for my basic training. Then I went home for 10 days, and then I came back to MCT, which was out of SOI West, which is about 45 minutes to an hour north of Camp Pendleton,
Okay.
and completed that. From there, I went down to Fort Benning, Georgia, which is where the new Home of Armor is.
I spent 3 weeks down in Fort Benning learning how to jump out of airplanes, so I have some recollections of Fort Benning. You poor guy.
Actually, no, because the part of Fort Benning in Georgia that I stayed at was the renovated one.
Oh,
they had
wow.
just opened it.
Good for you.
Now, unfortunately for you, I can tell you that I was able to see the houses and living quarters in which you probably stayed.
Well, I was lucky. I was an officer, so I stayed in the BOQ, but the other troops stayed in the World War II barracks, and that was not fun for them.
Well, they'd be glad to hear that those are now condemned and
Yeah.
considered unlivable.
They were
'cause
condemned back then, I think.
They literally do this number now.
Oh, my. Okay. Okay. Now, when did you get sent overseas now? When did that happen, and where did you get sent to?
We deployed the very last day of June in 2012, and we flew out of Marine Corps Air Force Base at an undisclosed time. Let's just say it's earlier than any of you individuals watching this show would ever get up or want to be up.
Exactly.
And we flew from there over to another undisclosed place in the eastern seaboard.
Okay.
And then from there we flew to another undisclosed location. And then from there we flew into Afghanistan.
Oh.
So we actually made it into Afghanistan on the 2nd of July. And then we were
Of what year now?
of 2012.
20, okay.
And we actually were shipped out to our COP, which is where we were stationed out of and operating, and going to be operating out of for the remainder of the deployment on the 4th of July.
Oh my.
So for everybody that thinks that they've seen fireworks, you haven't seen anything.
Nothing yet. Oh my.
It was an interesting flight, I got to say, because where I was sitting, I had a great view out the window, and from that altitude, it looks like 4th of July and it looks like fireworks, but what you don't realize is those are missiles, those are arties, those are grenades, those are tank rounds.
And you were seeing that stuff from the airplane there?
Oh, clear as day.
Oh my goodness.
It was beautiful, I got to tell you.
It was beautiful.
Just not for the people that they were hitting.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully it wasn't our guys they were hitting.
I don't know what to tell you on that one.
Oh boy. Wow. What went through your mind at that point in time? You say, what in the world am I doing here?
Game time.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I knew when I signed up, it was right in the middle of this whole thing. I knew that there was probably no way that I was going to get out of a deployment, let alone get through my service in the Marine Corps for 4 years of active duty without seeing overseas. And
Wow.
I didn't. I made it just slightly over a year before I was deployed.
Oh my. Okay. So tell me about when you got off the plane. What was next for it, and what was your mission over there? What were you told your mission was over there?
Our mission was to provide ground support for the grunt units, which that's literally what it means is ground unit when you say grunt.
Right.
And just give them cover fire with the M1A1 Abrams. And we had gone on a couple short missions prior to the mission that we'll be talking about later.
Okay.
And they went flawlessly. I mean, for the most part, they would do a pop shot. They would come out of a crevice or something and run off a magazine of AK-47 or pop up and shoot an RPG at the tank, which, like I said, 72 tons of rolling steel, they're built to withstand an RPG.
Oh my.
But it won't keep them from trying.
Okay.
They have caught on to the fact, though, that tanks are sensitive depending on where you shoot them.
Ooh.
So you can actually cripple a tank to the point to where we would require other tanks or a recovery vehicle to come get it, which puts people on the ground.
Oh.
Because there's no way to hook a tank up without a man on the ground.
Okay.
So they did that a few times, more often than not after I was brought back to the States.
Okay. Well, this is happening while somebody's getting fired at? I mean, they're...
Oh, correct.
They're okay. Oh, geez.
And ideally what they would do is they would take another tank and put it between where the rounds came from and the tank that's getting towed back to provide cover for the individual that's on the ground.
Oh.
Most of the time, unfortunately, the individual that's on the ground is the driver,
Oh my.
which it's technically supposed to be the loader.
Oh.
And in one incident after I was brought back to the States, it was a gunner who took a round to the back.
Ooh.
Lucky for him, he was wearing his flak jacket and it stopped it. But they allowed him to keep the SAPI plate and the round that they dug out of the SAPI plate. It completely destroyed the SAPI plate.
Oh my.
But he's still alive to tell the story today. So
Good. Thank goodness.
yeah.
Well, let's get into what actually happened over you. Well, let's go into your service while you were there and what happened to you over there. Obviously, you didn't come back, and you came back in one piece, but not a good piece. You had some things missing now. Go into what happened to you while you're there, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of serving over in Afghanistan.
Well, the good part is during the time I was over there, it was summertime, so it was warm. There wasn't a lot of rain.
Is warm or hot?
128 degrees by 9:30 a.m. So
Okay.
it was hot.
Hot. Thank you.
But unlike the temperatures here at 128 degrees with 350% humidity,
Ooh.
there wasn't much to say for humidity over there, which
Oh,
made it a
okay.
little bit more bearable.
Okay.
Unfortunately, standard operating equipment for your personal protective stuff is you're wearing your flak jacket
I see.
with your coveralls on when you're outside, even when you're servicing your tank. So you don't breathe real well.
You're in full battle dress out in 120-degree weather, aren't you?
You got it, yeah.
Oh, geez.
And you're packing your rifle in the
Yeah.
event that something goes wrong, which,
Oh.
Come on, you got about 8 feet worth of HESCO barrier
Okay.
in between you and everybody else that's over there.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but can you toss a grenade over an 8-foot wall?
I don't think so.
Oh, really? I think that you could pretty easily,
Well,
just like that, no big deal.
Okay.
But no, so I mean, like I said, you've got the good, which is it's warm. The bad is the fact that you're wearing all the
Yeah.
combat gear, and the ugly is the fact that you never know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Which-
Well, let's talk about that. What eventually, now what happened to bring you to the condition you're in right now? There, what was the incident that started everything?
We were tasked, our company assigned 3 of the platoons. That we had 4 platoons over there, and they tasked 3 of the 4 platoons to be as security for reconnaissance. When we did our mission to take back the Devil's Triangle, which is 5 compounds that sit up on hillsides. And I know everybody on the show is thinking, how in the heck can you make 5 compounds into a triangle? Well, it's possible, trust me.
Okay.
We have tried several times since we initially invaded into Afghanistan, and we have failed every time.
Oh my.
Well, this time it was a little different. They were able to complete the mission. They lost 1, and 4 were pretty badly injured. I was one of the ones that was very badly injured.
Now, what
And
was that, a direct hit on your tank then, or?
actually, it's a little more interesting than that. We were tasked with taking back a compound, and we had taken the compound back. Recon did their sweep. They said that there were no insurgents in the area. It's okay to bed the tanks for the night and dismount and eat our evening chow, which is MREs.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Meals ready to eat, yes.
Yeah, they've come a little ways since you were in the service,
yes.
but they're not really much better than what they used to be.
They're better than sea rations, let me tell you.
But so I was in the 2 tank, and I don't know whether I was driving or loading at that point in time, but bedding the tanks means that when you travel in sections. So a platoon has 4 tanks. Our section, the one in the 2 tank, the 2 tank had the blade on it, which meant that if I was the one driving, I would have dug a fighting position in for the 2 tank and dug one in for the 1 tank. We park them in, and the only thing sticking above the sand is the turret on the tank.
Oh, wow.
It makes you a lot less vulnerable to hits from the side and a lot stronger. Well, after we dismounted and started to eat our evening chow, we weren't on the ground 10 minutes before mortars started raining in.
Oh, my.
And the first mortar hit just south of the southern compound wall, and a couple of the reconnaissance Marines were a little unprepared for it, and they thought we were getting hit by RPGs. So they started booking it back over to get their rifles, which they had left laying over there by us. And in the process of trying to run over there to get them, a second mortar hit and blew out the southern compound wall, which now left everybody that was on the ground exposed to small arms fire or RPGs, whatever they wanted to launch at us. Then a third and fourth mortar hit right after the second mortar hit, and they landed right in front of me.
Ooh.
The first mortar hit and took 4.5 inches out of my tibia, which you have 2 bones in your lower leg. Your tibia is your weight supporting bone, your fibula is the one that controls your balance in your ankle. Not realizing what had happened, I tried to stand up to help the comrade next to me. And I went up and I went immediately right back down, not realizing what had happened. And then right after I went right back down, the fourth mortar hit. And it did pretty good damage to me, along with it killed the corporal that was sitting next to me, my tank commander, which was sitting 2 individuals over from him, and then somebody that was sitting 2 individuals over to the right of me, all took pretty good shrapnel damage.
Oh, my.
And the tank commander of the 1 tank suffered a severe concussion and knocked him briefly unconscious. So when the recon Marines that were running back to grab their rifles saw this, they diverted over to their MRAP to clip their med bags off. When the 5th mortar ricocheted off the side of their MRAP and landed in the sand next to them, failing to discharge.
Oops.
Lucky for them. They kicked their rears into high gear when they saw it laying there in the sand next to them, because just because it failed to detonate when it first landed doesn't mean that it can't detonate soon after. And they were trying to get over to us to start trying to administer medical aid when the 6th mortar hit just north of the northern compound wall, and then they opened up with small arms fire to try and keep everybody that was inside the compound pinned down so that we could finish essentially dying. And there was a lieutenant that was there that stood up to draw the fire towards himself, so that the corpsmen that were on scene and the couple of recon Marines that had the med bags could get to us to start trying to get us out of the way and get us out of the line of fire to start trying to administer medical aid to us. And he did well. He actually didn't get hit by a single round. I'm impressed.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting how they work over there.
Yes.
They can be 2 feet away from you with an AK-47, empty 30 rounds out of it, and not hit you with a single one.
Whoa.
But, you know, somehow from 60, 70 yards out, they were able to shoot me through the abdomen while I was already down. Apparently, you're not dead already or dead enough when the mortars hit you twice. So I don't know where you want to go with that. But at that point, they made a radio call for a helo to come in to medevac us.
Now, is this when your head got your sight, or am I going ahead of the game now?
You're a little ahead of the game on that one.
Okay.
That was due to, they don't know. But when we first got into Afghanistan, we all sat through a brief that no matter where in Afghanistan you are or you are deployed, they'll have a helo on the ground medevacing you within 3 minutes.
Oh.
The helicopter was there within 1 minute and 47 seconds.
Wow.
Didn't land for an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh.
The helo pilots refused to land because there was AK-47 fire in the area. Now, before we actually took the plane out to our COP, I was standing in a helo bay out there on Camp Leatherneck with one of our Hueys in it that was shot up by a .30 caliber machine gun. I guess it's a little different when it comes to Marines evacing people and other services evacing people.
Okay. Maybe it's good the Marines were there, maybe not the Air Force, huh? Is that what you're saying?
All I'm saying is I would have paid for the Air Force to be there because you probably would have landed the helo and got me off the ground before 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
But no, apparently the Army's just got a little different way of doing things over there. So.
Okay. So what happened to you now? Obviously you lost your sight after that incident then, or?
Yes. From the 2 mortar blasts, going from head to toe, I took shrapnel through the forehead, which penetrated the skull, and there was some in my brain. I took shrapnel to both eyes, which burst both my globes. I took shrapnel to the cheek and chin. I took shrapnel to my left shoulder, which completely filleted my shoulder open from the top of my shoulder blade into my armpit. I mean, it was just not a pretty sight. And I took shrapnel to just below the bottom left rib. It went in and then back out. I'm not quite sure how the heck I was laying to how it did it. I took a bullet wound through the abdomen, through and through. My right arm took scattered shrapnel, and then my right hand, it took shrapnel going through the PIP, through the MCP of the ring finger, and out through the middle of the metacarpal of my middle finger, which is why I'm now essentially missing my pinky on my right hand.
Okay.
And then I took decent shrapnel to my left leg, and it actually filleted the entire inside of my right knee in a crescent moon shape, completely open, to where you could see the entire inner workings of my right leg.
That's what, I wouldn't want to see that.
And no, and I wouldn't either. And lucky for me, I can't remember having seen that. But
can I ask you what kind of, we're getting kind of short of time here, we can go on and on, but what's anything going through your mind at this time about what's happening to you with all this stuff going on? What are you thinking?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I honestly can't remember back to when that happened.
Oh,
The last thing I remember was hitting the rack Friday night.
Oh.
And this happened Monday afternoon at like 5:46 p.m. Afghanistan time.
Oh, so the memory of the actual is out of, oh, wow.
It's gone.
Okay. Maybe that's good.
Hey, I'm praying it stays like that.
Yeah, thank you, yes. Holy cow.
I have no problem with that.
No. So what's the future hold for you? What kind of stuff do you
I
think?
actually got connected with a group that actually finds jobs for service members and disabled service members at that. Henceforth, the fact that I can no longer see, it's not as easy to get a job for me anymore.
Okay.
Because who's going to trust a guy with a skill saw or a hacksaw that can't see what
Well,
he's doing? It's
that'd be kind of tough, yes.
yeah, and just put me on a piece of heavy equipment. It's not like I'm going to dig something up, right?
Right.
But I'm actually starting a position with USA Fire, which is located out of Lake Forest, just north of Chicago,
Okay.
Monday morning.
Wow.
So I'm excited as all get out.
Good
It'll
for
be
you.
operating out of the home in which I'm living in
Okay.
for the first couple weeks until I can get the hang of things.
Okay.
And then they're more than flexible with trying to figure out how we're going to work with things from there.
Wow. Well, it sounds like the future is opening up for you, so that's a tremendous accomplishment. How about introducing your partner next to you too? You got an assistant with you today, huh?
Absolutely. This is Zach.
Okay.
He is my yellow lab guide dog. He turned 28 months old on September 20th. What I didn't realize is when I was down in Florida doing the training with him, I had him for his 2-year birthday.
Oh.
And they failed to mention that to me. So I didn't even know that I was supposed to be celebrating his birthday with
Oh
him.
no.
But he had a good day on September 20th. He got to spend it with me.
Wow.
And as you can see, he's more than friendly.
He's more than, especially with you. That's good.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, he looks like a nice dog there to keep it going there. Wow.
He's a fantastic dog. I wouldn't trade him for the world.
Oh well, good for you. Well, good luck to you. I wish you all the best. Last question, real short. What does it mean to be a Marine?
As our motto goes, Semper Fidelis, always faithful.
Okay.
The man next to you means more than you do yourself. So if you saving his life costs you yours, that's what you do.
Wow.
It's a little different than the mottos of the rest of the armed services.
I give you credit. I do give you credit. Even as an Air Force veteran, I still look up the Marines. I give you tons of credit for being that way, and hope you never lose sight of that. But that's a tremendous accomplishment. Well, thank you so much for coming in today on the show and sharing with us your experience. I hope the public can appreciate what our young men are going through over in a combat area. It's not a pretty sight, but we are so grateful there are people willing to do so and give their lives to the country. Thanks for watching Discover Tinley, and we'll see you next month.